When a bank's fortune surpassed that of nations, imagine a financial empire so powerful that governments would secretly turn to it, like subjects seeking blessings from the throne. And we're not talking about a country, but a single bank. A bank whose coffers overflowed with so much gold, silver, and securities that its wealth surpassed that of entire kingdoms. How was this possible? How did a private institution come to control the hidden machinery behind wars, treaties, and even political decisions? And what if I told you that this bank not only financed monarchs, but also had the power to break them? That its owners were not just bankers, but silent strategists, operating in the shadows of global diplomacy. Today, billions are moved by digital banks in seconds. But little more than a century ago, a single banking family decided the fate of continents. Which bank was this? How did it gain such influence? And, above all, why does its name still echo in the backrooms of power, even after so many centuries? The answer lies in the invisible gears that move money and the world. At the beginning of the 19th century, Europe was buzzing with transformations. The Napoleonic Wars redrew borders, kings lost crowns, and empires faced colossal economic upheavals. It was a time of instability, fear, and opportunities. Amidst this chaos, an invisible force emerged discreetly: the Rothschilds. A German Jewish family led by patriarch Mayer Amschel Rothschild, who would revolutionize the concept of financial power. While armies marched across the plains of Europe, the Rothschilds moved a different kind of troop: information and capital. Unlike the aristocrats who flaunted castles, they operated behind the scenes. Mayer had a vision that no other banker dared to realize: to build a transnational banking network, with his 5 sons stationed in Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples, an interconnected family web that defied distances, governments, and currencies. The genius lay in the speed of information. While governments still relied on messengers and postal services that took days to cross borders, the Rothschilds used their own network of carrier pigeons, spies, and encrypted codes, allowing them to know of victories and defeats before any chancellor or king. This gave them a brutal advantage in the markets, and it was thus that they managed to pull off one of the most impressive moves in financial history. In 1815, following the decisive Battle of Waterloo, the British victory over Napoleon altered the course of Europe. However, uncertainty still reigned on the London Stock Exchange. Investors were unsure whether England had won or lost. Nathan Rothschild, already established as the London branch of the family, received news of the victory hours in advance thanks to his private network. And what did he do? He publicly sold all of his shares. Seeing the city's best-informed banker liquidating his holdings, the market panicked. Prices plummeted. Then, discreetly, Rothschild's agents bought everything back for pennies. When the official news of the victory arrived, share prices soared, and the Rothschilds profited like no other group. This episode, more than a brilliant maneuver, was a symbol. It showed that at that moment in history, a bank, or rather a family of bankers, had surpassed the power of entire states. They did not merely predict market movements, they orchestrated the financial destiny of Europe. But the Rothschilds' fortune did not grow solely through speculation. They financed Europe's post-war reconstruction, lending to kings and governments. And as collateral, they received concessions, interest, and political influence. By the end of the 19th century, it was estimated that the family's accumulated wealth exceeded the GDP of several European countries combined. They had transformed the bank into something more than an institution, a silent empire, without a flag but with tentacles in every major decision on the continent. An empire where money was not just a tool, it was a weapon and a shield. With their reputation consolidated after Waterloo, the Rothschilds began to play a role that transcended that of mere financiers. They became indispensable intermediaries between governments, armies, and markets, establishing a new type of power: invisible financial power. They did not occupy thrones, nor wear military uniforms, but their telegrams, contracts, and checks had more impact than many royal decrees. During the 19th century, as colonialism expanded and the Industrial Revolution accelerated, governments needed capital. And capital was exactly what the Rothschilds offered, for a price, of course. They financed the construction of railways, sanitation systems, port infrastructure, and even the British Empire's expansion. They were behind the Suez Canal, the construction of railways in Austria, the war loan to Prussia, and the urban modernization of Paris. And in each project, there were profits. But more than that, there was an accumulation of influence. Governments that borrowed from the Rothschilds did not merely see them as creditors, but as silent partners in the fate of their countries. This became evident in the diplomatic correspondence of the time. Ministers sought the family's advice on the best time to issue public debt or how to react to currency crises. It was not uncommon for an agreement to be signed only after the financial blessing of the Rothschild house. But the true impact came from the psychological effect. Markets believed that if the Rothschilds were behind the project, then it was safe. If they bought a country's debt securities, other investors followed suit. If they sold, chaos ensued. Thus, the Rothschilds came to dictate international confidence, an influence that central banks would only achieve much later. Of course, such power attracted opposition. By the end of the 19th century, conspiracy theories began to circulate, portraying the Rothschilds as global manipulators. Many exaggerations were written, but the truth behind these legends is that they indeed held an unprecedented concentration of wealth, capable of interfering in public policies and state decisions. When, for example, Britain needed to buy shares in the Suez Canal to control this vital route, it was Lionel Rothschild who advanced the money to the British government with a phone call. The fortune amassed by the family was, at the time, practically incomprehensible. Sources estimated that, if consolidated, the wealth of the Rothschild house surpassed the combined annual budget of powers like Austria, Russia, and France. And, unlike nations, they were not subject to revolutions, elections, or wars. Their capital was mobile, discreet, and strategically protected by their multinational family structure. In this scenario, the question that echoed among chancellors and bankers was unsettling. Who really governed Europe? The kings who spoke in palaces, or the bankers who wrote checks in the silence of their boardrooms? Today, when we think of power, we tend to imagine presidents, generals, CEOs of large companies, or tech magnates. But for much of the modern era, the true power did not wear a uniform, nor did it give interviews. It was exercised silently, behind velvet curtains, by men who mastered a language understood by few, that of large-scale money. The history of the Rothschild house and other banks that followed similar paths makes us rethink the pillars of power. When a single family can dictate market confidence, finance wars, rebuild entire cities, and influence state decisions, it transcends any traditional definition of influence. This is a power without territory, but with global reach. An empire without an army, but with the ability to topple governments with the stroke of a pen. More than just a tale of wealth, this journey serves as a disquieting reminder. Money always finds a way to take center stage in politics and history. Whether it was the 19th century with the Rothschilds or the 21st century with modern financial giants, the pattern repeats itself. The concentration of capital transforms those who hold it into central figures in our collective destiny. And despite the world's digitalization, the logic remains the same. Today, central banks, sovereign wealth funds, big techs, and institutional investors are still the true helmsmen of the global system. Many of them don't make headlines often, but they're behind the decisions that affect interest rates, inflation, economic security, and geopolitics. The question then remains alive. Who truly holds the power? Is it the head of state who appears on national networks, or the managers of trillions who remain anonymous? Is it the Minister of Economy, or the invisible controllers of international lines of credit? The history of the Rothschild fortune serves as a warning, inspiration, and provocation. It shows us that true power doesn't shout. It whispers in the right ear at the right moment with the right amount. And you? Had you ever heard of a bank that surpassed the wealth of entire nations? Do you think there are still fortunes with that kind of silent reach today? Leave your comment below. Your opinion is invaluable to this debate. If you enjoyed this journey through one of the most fascinating plots in financial history, subscribe to the Mundo Enriquecedor channel. Here, every week, we reveal the backstages of economics that change the course of the world, with engaging narratives, little-known facts, and reflections that connect the past to the present. And if you want to dive even deeper into this topic, check out our video on The Money That Funded the Crusades, another story where gold spoke louder than swords. Until the next episode,